So welcome to this panel discussion on mastering effective discovery sessions. I'm your host, Chinkle. I'm one of the partners at Mantrax. Our panel is made of seasoned experts that facilitate discovery sessions on a regular basis. So whether your organization is looking to optimize business performance or to build a new product line or to launch any kind of new digital transformation, whether it's an ERP implementation or modernization of software, investing upfront in an unbiased, unfiltered, effective discovery before jumping into implementation can really be game-changing. Our experts will discuss strategic and effective discovery, best practices, and shed some light on the approaches that they've been using for years now and they have perfected. Our participants, thank you for joining. The session will be approximately 45 minutes. Apologies for the little late start. We just came to questions. And there will be time at the end of the session for a Q&A. Please use the Q&A feature at the bottom of the Zoom panel to submit your questions. We will monitor the questions throughout the session and then try to get to as many as we can at the end. Please note to manage, unplanned interruptions, people coming in and out. I have disabled the chat and video and mic just to kind of keep the focus on the panel. And with that said, thank you again for joining. Looking forward to the session. Let's dive right in and meet our panelists. And I'll get them to introduce themselves so you can hear firsthand about who they are and what they do and their businesses. Let's start with Antoine.
Yeah, thanks, Chinkle, for the introduction. So I'm Antoine. I'm the founder of Able Consulting. We're the only impactful scaling consultancy. So what we do is we help purpose-driven businesses overcome their scale-up challenge, their growth barrier. So the way we do this is really with a blend of best practices that we tailor to businesses. Every business is different. We don't do a cookie cutter approach. So we really need to understand how business work, and we work with the owners, with the people as well. So I have a background in industrial engineering. I'm a Lean Six Sigma black belt. And then at home, I'm a home cook. I'm the proud father of a 1-year-old boy. I'm an enthusiast photographer. I love scuba diving, bicycle riding, and a bunch of other things. I'm very happy to be there.
Thanks, Antoine. Kalyan, we will have you go next.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for the introduction, Chinkle. So my name is Kalyan. I'm one of the co-founders and a partner at Mantrax. So a little bit about Mantrax. We are a full-stack software development company based out of Mississauga, Ontario. We specialize in legacy app modernization, platform modernization, things like going from on-prem to cloud, and AI enablement. AI is like the buzzword these days. That's why I'm not adding that. We have been doing AI for the last 5 years almost. And while it might sound like a cliche, we deeply value integrity and transparency in everything we do. And everything we are doing with our projects, we have that philosophy that nothing should be hidden from the clients. So we are providing them access to the code from day one. And we provide timesheets, how things are going, just to manage the budgets. And a little bit about myself, I'm a software engineer by training. I have about 15 years of experience working as a software engineer in various roles. At Mantrax, what I do is project delivery, and I'm responsible for delivering strategic projects and pretty much all projects that Mantrax undertakes to make sure things are on budget, on time. And at a personal level, when I'm working as a resource, I'm a solution architect by design or by profession. And I will focus on application security, standards, compliance, and monitoring. And I'm really happy to be on this panel today.
Thanks, Kalyan. And over to you, Mo.
Sure. So hi, everyone. I'm a founder of Atelier PMO. What we do is to foster sustainable business development with intelligent product experience. So what does it mean? It means sustainable. You have a team who can drive this growth at the long term. You have a right mindset to understand the relationship between innovative technology, the development, business, and your clients. And the third, the right methodology to drive and manage long-term development. So that's basically what I do. I used to be a data scientist, a researcher, and I turned to be a business person, because what's important is to really understand what's the purpose of technology. Seeing many people, many misuse of technology that really negatively impact our world, I'm really driven to support like entrepreneurs, scale ups to really create possible influence in our world.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mo. As you can see, we have a diverse panel. Everybody has a different expertise and focus on different sizes of business and different disciplines. What we will do next is have each of our panelists briefly explain to us what discovery really means to them, what is the context in the business they operate, and why is it critical from their perspective as advisors. And again, maybe Antoine, we'll start with you since you're first on my window.
Yeah, sure, thanks. Well, it's funny because when you ask this question, it makes me think of a quote that's oftentimes attributed to Einstein, like probably a third of the quotes you can find on the internet. But I like it because it says, if I were given 1 hour to save the planet, I would spend the first 59 minutes defining the problem and 1 minute resolving it. And the way I understand this quote is really, it highlights that the rigor in which a problem is defined is the most important factor in finding solutions. And many organizations are not necessarily trained or skilled at articulating the problem and identifying the one that can help move the needle in their strategies. In fact, most of the owners we work with, they're very, very action driven. They tend to jump right into solution mode. And there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's that behavior that allows these owners to become entrepreneur. That's what drives them. Without this type of personality, they wouldn't have a business. But the problem with solutions is that a solution to me is really just a tool. The metaphor I like to use is the one of a hammer. When you have a hammer, it's a great tool. You can hang a frame, you can build a castle, you can also hurt your foot, your pinky toe. But the point is, it really depends on what you're trying to do. So if I want to hang a frame, I'll use a hammer. That's a great tool for that. It's perfect. If I'm cleaning my windows, I have no use for that tool. And to me, that's what strategic discovery is. It really is about understanding the current situation, understanding the problem that we're solving, whether we're implementing new processes, new business model, new product, new service, that doesn't matter what it is. We want to understand the gap between the current situation and the future situation or the desired situation. That's the problem. Once we've narrowed it down, once we really understand the gap, then the solution becomes pretty easy, almost obvious. So that's what makes the strategic discovery so important and so powerful as a consulting tool.
So Antoine, you're right. Really, to me, like discovery really is, let's understand the current situation, identify the true challenges, and let's get to the root cause before we start solution implementing. So in discovery, when you're talking to clients, how do you really strike a balance between focusing on the discovery and conducting efficient analysis across the business parameters versus getting right into the weeds? Because you may have a big problem and you just want to get into it.
Yeah, it's a tough question because in my experience, it's a very delicate task to really find this balance between understanding the business as a whole, but also going deep enough to figure out what the true problem or the true causes are. It comes easier with experience and time. But that being said, I think there are key principles that anyone can apply to become better at keeping this balance between detail and high level. The first advice I might want to share is really start with the end in mind. So think about what business problem am I trying to solve? What situation do I want to be in 6 months from now? And I have a friend and a colleague. He runs a consulting firm in the Atlantic provinces. He calls it the whole part whole. So you start with the whole, you understand at the business level, what do we hope to accomplish? Then the part is where you narrow it down to the true causes, the real bottlenecks that you need to solve. But make sure as you do that you're still connected to the bigger picture. The second piece of advice would be to always keep an outside-in perspective. So what that means is every process in every organization is there to somehow create value for the customers. So look at things from their perspective. Put yourself in your customer's shoes. Try to see things from their perspective and try to see how it might create value for them or not at all. Just doing this will really help understand what makes sense to spend time on. I won't be spending time looking at things that do not create value at all. These are the type of activities I would tend to just get rid of. And then the last piece of advice would be to keep some useful concept in mind. And one of them I use all the time is the Pareto principle. I don't know if you're familiar with the Pareto principle. You might know it's sometimes referred to as the 80-20 rule. That's how people sometimes know the principle. But what it says in a nutshell is that 80% of the pains, the business level problems that we see is caused by 20% of the issues. So knowing this, I know that if I'm to fix 80% of the pain, I don't have to fix every single issue. What I have to do, though, is to find those 20%, find the causes that really matter. So that's also another way to kind of keep the conversation balanced. I'm not going to waste time talking about the other issues that do not move the needle at all. I really want to make sure I fix the 20% that matter.
Absolutely, Antoine. It's really about having the whole picture, but then zoning into the critical stuff without kind of getting bogged by everything else, right? But it's good to have that holistic view. Let's switch gears. Maybe Kalyan, from your perspective, when it comes to software applications, what's your approach to discovery, and why is it critical for the discoveries to be to spend time on the discovery upfront before jumping into a software development project?
Yeah, absolutely. Antoine said a lot of the things that are very relevant to our, from a software angle as well. So what we have to do when we go into the strategic discovery session is have to understand what's your history been to date, right? Understanding how your development has been, what kind of tools you have used, what performance has been do you have performance degradation over time? What are all your pain points? So once we have those pain points, then the next conversation is usually around alignment with your business objectives. What are you trying to do? So when it comes to a new product or new development or any kind of app modernization or completely new tool sets, what are you trying to achieve from your business perspective? Is it to grow? Is it to divest, or is it to attract more customers? In most cases, we find that it's usually the operational efficiencies that are lacking and people want to achieve those. Or it could be the tool is so outdated that they don't have the competitive edge. So understanding those business objectives is very crucial, in a strategic discovery session. And then obviously industry analysis. If you are in supply chain or if you are in any business, to be honest, you have to know what your competitors are doing. Does it give you whatever your alignment or whatever your thought process is in terms of your project? Does it align you well, or does it give you any kind of competitive advantage over your competition? So understanding that, whether it's a off-the-shelf solution or do you want to build something, custom, that analysis has to be done to match your industry. And last but not the least, technology analysis, right? Oftentimes people have some technology in mind, maybe a product owner or key stakeholder has heard of something. It's a cool word, it's a buzzword. AI is all over the news. I often hear things oh, use ChatGPT, low code, no code to automate things. But can you sustain those things in the future? Do you have the resources or the technical abilities or the in-house skill sets, whatever, maybe even budget to support those kind of things? So doing that deep technology analysis is super important, because then you might be ending up in a situation where you chose all this cool technology, current buzzwords, but they won't scale. They will not give you the best ROI. So doing all these different areas, going through each and every aspect of your current situation and your future is critical in a strategic discovery session.
So Kalyan, similar to what Antoine has said, is having a holistic picture, looking at the functional, the technical, the market, the industry, the mega tech trends. How do you evaluate all these things in discovery and keep it engaging and capture the attention of all the stakeholders?
Well, so you basically have to look at 5 areas really, right? In terms of any discovery, it's a big question, so hard for me to sum up. But if you have to really put a, like in a small, like elevators pitch style answer to that would be functional research, right? You have to do some kind of technology landscape understanding, what's the lay of the land, what you have currently, what's working well, what's not working well. Then you have to do a technical analysis of, are your technology, whatever you're picking, is outdated, right? Can you pick something? I'll give you an example, right? A lot of the times we hear like, oh, XYZ vendor has said that they can achieve this in 3 months using this particular technology stack. But that technology stack is grossly outdated. So it has a lifetime of maybe like at most the next 2 to 3 years. What are you going to do afterwards? So that's an easy decision. But when it comes to things like, okay, you have to choose a cloud vendor, whether you're going to host on-prem or you're going to go to cloud, those conversations usually require like some deep analysis in terms of, market dynamics, undefined technology trends. So all of that has to be brought in to give like a holistic approach or holistic answer to that question.
Okay, thanks, Kalyan. Mo, I'll let you kind of chime in and provide your insights into what strategic means from your perspective, and why is it crucial in product strategy?
Yeah, and I cannot agree more with Antoine and Kalyan, especially three of us were very complementary in terms of the process. And I would like to hone in into intelligent product discovery, because it's basically you have a big hole and that covers sort of hole and to solve a particular problem or to open a particular opportunity. And the first step is always the same, is to relate to the bigger picture. So for product discovery, the bigger picture is then the business objectives. What's your growth goals and how can we relate to that, including are they really realistic? So from that perspective, we do analysis and to understand, okay, what is your holistic picture? And the second thing is to understand the market opportunity, especially when you are going to commercialize this tool. What's the market opportunity presented to you in today's emerging world with technology and other needs that are growing? And also, what is your unique business advantage? Because when we are talking about innovation, we cannot forget about tradition. The tradition actually is your business knowledge over the years, your very particular business niche and the process. All that actually are knowledge we can use to provide a very unique and converging, engaging, intelligent experience to the customers. And lastly, for particular product discovery, it has to be linked to the actual action, which is what's the technical feasibility and what is the talent resource that are important for you to roll out this plan. That directly relates to your timeline, your resource allocation, and your roadmap. So after that, you should have a very clear picture and a step-by-step process to really release, and in terms of versioning, in terms of what resource and budget you are looking at. So that's what it means. And why it is crucial, I guess it's just when you build a product, you have to have a farmer's mindset, because the wise farmers, before growing the crop, they always invest in preparing the soil, because after that, the crop will grow faster and healthier. And that is the same principle. The product discovery is really to prepare the soil, and you'll see the result in the next 6 months to a year. You can see how smooth it can go.
I love the analogy, and it's great to hear some common themes across, Antoine, Kalyan, and Mo, even though you're in complementary but distinct disciplines that are different. Mo, from a product discovery perspective, when you're talking about digital, intelligent products, what are some of the pitfalls that you run into when you're orchestrating the discovery, and how could that impact the business?
There are many pitfalls, but I would say a very prominent pitfall is that not doing enough user research and client research. What does it mean? Like digital intelligent products, we're talking about software, we're talking about software integrated with AI, with data, or IoT devices. And all those products have one thing in common, which is they are super rich in interactions with the user. And that we call it user experience. And honestly, it really doesn't matter what technology you use for the perceived value of the end user. Think about, we all use smartphones, but who really can explain what technology in the smartphone? Everyone just loves or dislike the experience that you acquire from this phone. And the same logic here. So not doing enough user research means for product, we have to dig into psychological and behavioral level of user research. And the pitfall is people usually use marketing or sales user persona and directly impulse to the product development. And you see very high level general description, the title, age, group, demographics, but there's no behavior and psychological elements to guide the user experience. And what happens is you build an imaginary product for your end user, which turned out can be really, really wrong. And you only discover that in a few months later when you launch it and you see nobody likes it and you are like, what's wrong? So that's really the impact, the huge impact of not doing enough user discovery, which is part of the product discovery. And I'd like to give a quick example. It's a real world example, very funny. There's a very mature recruitment company in Canada who already have their very mature system and to recruit like a mid to entry level job seekers. And they had this strategy to expand to a foreign market to recruit internationally. And their strategy at business level is we have a very great cool working system so that we just deploy the recruitment team to that country and boom, we start hiring. What happens? So for now, actually, I want to have you reflect what's wrong in this strategy where they said, like, I have a working system and I'm gonna recruit internationally. It sounds pretty right because that's the same job entry level, mid-level job seekers, right? It sounds really correct. But what happened was they had barely no application really went through their system and received on their headquarter end. And it was already in executional phase. They shipped their team to that country. And when we dig in, we found that the end user of that country for the same type of jobs, for one, most of them, they don't have laptop, which is where the application is hosted. They use smartphone. And for two, they don't check their emails for notification and the communication. They use WhatsApp, they use other Facebook Messenger to communicate. So that's why the recruiters cannot really reach out to them. And three, they didn't have a well-formatted CV to really pass the system. So that's really the sunk cost when you see you didn't really investigate at behavioral and psychological level of the end user. You assume that's the same type of user, and when you dig in, that's completely different type of product you have to build and provide. So, and of course, the end of story is the recruitment was very disappointing, costly. And it was a very big learning for them.
That's a great example, Mo. And I think user personas really are just like it's just one starting point, right? There's process maps, there is customer journeys before and after, and wireframing, and the user experience design is also a big part of development. So we can have a lengthy discussion on this, but just to kind of move things forward. Thank you all for sharing what discovery is, some great examples, why is important, and great some common themes. Let's dive into understanding how do you structure an effective discovery session that's engaging, ultimately leading to meaningful insights. So I would love to hear from each of you in your practice and from your hands-on experience. What is the approach that has worked well for you? What are the typical timelines? How do you structure it? How do you go about it? And again, let's start with you, Antoine.
Yeah, thanks. So at Able, we have a methodology to deliver any kind of result for customers. And it's a very simple, it's a two-step iterative process, and we call that the Ampli flywheel. So for those who are familiar with Jim Collins' Good to Great, that's a reference. But so in this process, it always starts with an organizational diagnosis. That's step one of our discovery phase, really. So it's a 4-week process. We have a semi-guided interviews. We look at some documentation, internal documentation, and it really is an in-depth discovery phase centered around 3 core pillars. So our diagnosis, we call it the 3P diagnosis. It's an internal process. and we look around the people pillar. So in other words, people, processes, how the vision, the mission of the organization, the values, how is it cascaded and embedded into day-to-day life. HR processes is part of that pillar. Then we look at the second pillar, which is the process. So processes, in a nutshell, they're the way we create and deliver value to customer. So when we look at processes, we want to understand, are they focused on the customer? Are they really creating value? Are they efficient? Are they measured? Are they improved over time? And then the third pillar is the platform. It's really about the technology that we use to leverage the processes, the data that we use to leverage decision making. It's about the safety, the continuity, the way the business manages the risks. Once we have this, we kind of have a prioritized list of the pain points we want to address. And then comes the wheel in our second step in our iterative process. In the wheel, we have a little bit of discovery as well, because from the diagnosis, we know where to look, we know where the problems are, but we still don't know exactly what needs to be fixed. So then comes the wheel, where we dig deeper, we understand the pain point, we understand the root causes, and only then can we implement solutions that are sustainable, that can survive the test of time. Another, and this can take anywhere from, I don't know, 3 to 6 months, depending on the complexity, but that's when we expect to see results happening. The one piece I want to add to this around strategic discovery, it's key to understand the problems in a business and then fix them permanently. But I like them also because of how impactful they are on the change management. Because ultimately, we're all we have very different businesses, but we're all doing the same thing. We're introducing changes to organization. We help them grow, we help them scale. And we know change is hard. We're human beings, we don't like that. We tend to resist, it's a natural thing. There's nothing wrong with that. So when we go about a discovery process, what we're doing on top of figuring out the issues, we're building trust. We're connecting with the teams. We're looking at things not from the upper management perspective, but also from the people perspective, from the staff, from the customer perspective. And so knowing the problem is half the battle. Then it's really about engaging the team and mobilizing people to fix it. So
I love that, Antoine, because it's good to know the problem so you can figure out the solution. But for me, one of the most important reasons to discovery is to engage all the stakeholders up front and not after the discovery is done.
Yeah.
Just to we're at about 12:35, just so the panelists know, and because we started a bit later, so just to keep the answers a little bit concise, so we can get through the entire agenda. But then I'll let you chime in quickly on your approach, although I think you gave us insights already earlier in the question.
Yeah, in the interest of time, I'll say copy of what Antoine just said. But if I have to take a slight different, I mean, it's not a slight different, but what I will say is from a technology perspective, the biggest thing that we have to also do from our end is don't be, too rash in picking up a technology stack. These days, you go and Google something and you'll find hundreds and hundreds of low code systems, but they're really, really hard to scale. And once you're in their ecosystem, you can't really get out. It's always an upgrade, a premium feature, an add-on. And by the time you're finished your product, you realize that you have a very close-knit system at hand. That's not ideal. And one thing where my approach is a little bit different is that, sometimes the projects are sub 100,000 and then project is like more than $5 million. So the discovery process really depends on the project size and the needs. So, some projects may have a really good functional requirements written and they come to us all prepared, but that doesn't happen all the time. But if it happens, then we ask them critical questions that, okay, how are you going to support something like a breach happens, threat prevention? How are you going to scale? If your user base grows from 50 to 5,000 over a period of let's say 2 weeks, can you handle that? So those critical questions we typically ask during the discovery session. And oftentimes we find that stakeholders don't have an answer for it. So back to everything that Antoine said, our philosophy is that take the time to come up with the solution, the roadmap, how are you going to scale? All of those things need to be accounted for during the discovery process.
Thanks, Kalyan. And Mo, your take on structuring the discovery session appropriately and what's been your best practice of what you've learned?
Yeah, in a nutshell, I have 3 defines. So first, define the role and the impact of the intelligent product you're going to build related to your business objectives. So it answers the question where you want your business to be in the next 2 to 5 years. And second define is to define the market positioning and perceived value of your end user and of this product. So it answers the question, what are you going to do? Are you to build in order to get there where you want to be. And the third is to define what's the technological roadmap and the team structure and management process in order to have a concrete plan in place. So that answers the question how you are going to get there. So why, what, how, that's a very 3 golden triangle questions we all ask, but with our personal specialties to well define it. It's a very short process of 1.5 to 2 months, but it's super powerful in order to give you a great runway for the next development phase.
So one of my favorite sayings is that whether it's in personal life or business life or a project, if you ask for feedback, you'll get feedback, and not all feedback is good. So Mo, in your experience, how do you balance the user's needs, the user's perspectives with the business goals, and in product strategy development without overdoing it or ignoring it and striking that right balance?
Oh, that's an excellent question, even philosophical question. So here, business objectives are very abstract usually, and the user needs are usually very concrete. And we can already see there's 2 ends, and there is a void. That void is actually product discovery in order to concretize those business objectives and link with the user needs. And when we struggle a lot with overscoping and a lot of user needs, actually that's the symptom. The cause is you are not having a great product discovery and the scoping and the framework, so that your team, the whole team, no matter it's manager, product owner, or engineer, they cannot answer, are they the right user? Is this need fit into our scope, or this scope or next scope? And also, if this need really aligns with our definition of the product. So when people are not able to answer those questions, it becomes a guessing work, and guessing work will produce a lot of sunk cost on the long run.
Thank you. That's some great feedback. And maybe a final question before we kind of open the session for our participants if they have any questions is strategic discovery and only applicable to big complex environments or before you're embarking on a 5-year change management project, or can small businesses or startups benefit from this approach, not only like size of a company but even on small initiatives, right? Like maybe a 6-month initiative. What's your take on it, our experts? I'll open that to all of you. Please provide your thoughts.
Well, if I may start, there's this notion that complex project and the discovery phase that comes with it is really for big companies. My view on that is that small and medium businesses, startups, cannot afford not to do discovery. And the reason is these businesses, the small companies, they don't have the resources. They don't necessarily have all the skills. They can't afford to make poor investment of time or financials. So they really want to make sure that whatever they do, they get the best ROI from that. Big businesses, oftentimes, not all of them, but they have the teams, they have the skills, so they can work in the business, but they also have the team that can work on the business. And smaller companies, they don't necessarily have that. That's when consultants come in. We're there to work on their business, helping them grow. So to me, really, it's not a matter of size. It's rather a matter of, can you afford not to get the best ROI? Can you afford to spend your money and resources only to realize that you're heading in the wrong direction from the get-go? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I can.
Kalyan, anything to add to that?
I
Go ahead.
Yeah, so to add one point, yes, of course, it's for every size of company, including individual consultants. I do my own discovery periodically. So actually, the question is how you do that. For smaller early stage companies, you do it more frequently, maybe every quarter, so that because you evolve very fast. And for mid-sized bigger companies, you stretch it longer because your market is more defined, your team is more structured. They need time to produce results before you do the next discovery. But in a nutshell, yes, everyone should do it if you are running a business.
Yeah. I also agree. Like size doesn't really matter. So we do something called SMART goals. I don't know if you have heard of those. It's a very popular acronym these days. So if you're a large company or a small company, you define your own goals. So SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. So you may have like a 3-year project roadmap, or you may have a 3-month project roadmap. But as long as you can say that, okay, this is my budget, these are my requirements, this is how I want to measure my success, like, and can I achieve this within my time frame and my budget? And if we say that, yeah, this is realistic, then we can proceed with the project. But then you might come to us, let's say your budget doesn't perform to build like the next big thing, and you're trying to achieve something too big, then let's not start on that journey. Like, let's think what you can actually realistically achieve within your time frame, within your budget. And this discovery session is actually that gives an answer to that. So big or small, like discovery session is definitely required.
Thanks, Kalyan, and thanks everybody. I mean, I'm taking some notes here. I'm learning some new pieces of nuggets from all of you as well. So we do have about 17 minutes left to respect everybody's time. I do have one more question that I would like to ask the panelists, but I do want to encourage our participants to see if they have any questions, small or big, or even a clarifying question. Please do use the Q&A feature at the bottom of the Zoom link to kind of pose the question. We'll try to get to it. I don't see any right now, so I do want to let you know that we have some time, and happy to address them. Before we kind of...
I see something there, like from Selma.
I think that was from the beginning of just the voice.
Oh, okay.
So before we allocate time for questions, I have a few of my own as well, if there's nobody else who has them. Is there any final pieces of advice that any of our panelists want to share with the audience? I know this is a big topic, and it feels like the time was quite short, so I'm maybe a few quick nuggets in closing.
Yeah, you want me to start?
Sure, go ahead, Antoine.
Okay. So my takeaway is, because I'm also listening to you guys and learning as well, is don't jump into solution mode right away. That's our default mechanism. We want to be pushed to action. That's how we get things done. But let's try to take a step back and think. And to me, that's what the discovery really is about. It's to think about what comes next. Where do I want to go? So really, it's don't jump into the solution mode. The journey to transformation starts with the right map, and strategic discovery is that map. Another thing, and Mo, you mentioned it really well. It's not a one-time thing. Discovery is really iterative. It's an ongoing process, because ultimately the goal is to understand the gap between where we're at and where we want to go. And the current situation constantly changes. So see discovery more as a habit, as a way of thinking, not just as a one-time thing and it's done. And the last piece of advice, it's not just from a project or a consultancy practice perspective. It really more is about who we are as individuals, but stay curious. If you're a business owner, if you're a CEO, if you're a manager, if you're wherever you are in the company, stay curious, ask why all the time, do it respectfully, but challenge the status quo, be candid. And that's also a great way to kind of understand the current situation and move forward.
Thanks, Antoine.
Okay. You want me to go next?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah. So I mean, as the saying goes, and as Mo said as well, like, you have to measure twice and cut once, right? Whether it's through Mantrax or any other vendor in the industry, you have to invest the time in assessing the various options you have, right? When you're building a complex product, or even if it's a simple product, you have to look out the long-term game, like 3, 5, 10 years out from now, right? From your business perspective. And because I come as a technology leader in this panel, it should enable business strategy and growth projections, right? Picking the wrong technology, rushing to something quickly in order to jump ahead and start implementation could really hurt your ROI. And lastly, and this is something not about the importance of the session, but if you choose to do the session, this is what I have seen some big organization make a mistake. They focus too much on the tool sets to facilitate this discovery session. Be as rudimentary or as simple as you can, right? Rather than using some kind of a virtual like tool, like in a whiteboard or something, just meet face to face if it's possible. And if it's not possible, like have phone calls or a Zoom session, and then do your notes. But overwhelming your stakeholders during a strategic discovery session is a bad idea. Like it leads to like poor participation. People are often on their phones. You're doing things virtually. Nobody cares. So having a closed group, having a focus group always helps, as opposed to having a broad audience. So I would recommend having less tools. Go back to like drawing boards, sticky notes, those kind of things, and have smaller focus groups to conduct the meetings.
Okay, and
Those are so good advices. And I would add, maybe it's on the mindset perspective, especially for the leaders in the company, because you will for sure be there, even facilitate those sessions. Just set an intention. What are you gonna get there? What do you want to get out from this discovery session? And set your inner peace, because sometimes in this session you may face disagreements, conflicts, and you suddenly realize, oh, we're not aligned. So it's important to set an internal intention and to stay calm and stay open. This is not a session we're going to solve a particular problem, but more to discover what's out there. So as leaders, your status, your mental status really influence the quality of this session. And that's really important to start with your own, and as an example, focus on asking questions instead of jumping in the solution.
that's great feedback, Mo, because really it's about setting the stage, right? What's in scope, even from a discussion perspective, right? And what's out of scope, what the ground rules are, making it engaging, inclusive, inviting, comfortable. In change management, like if you're looking at ERP projects, sometimes the naysayers or the most resistant people are the people who've been using the same ERP system for about 30, 40 years. And, and rightfully so, they're very nervous. So if all of a sudden, like Kalyan said, if you introduce a fancy digital tool to take their feedback, right away, you're going to get a little bit of pushback saying, okay, I'm already nervous and now you're making me more nervous. We do have one question from the audience. Let's take that. What is the most challenging part as you're, facilitating discovery to ensure that you're actually adding value to your customer, whether it's your direct sponsor or it's the entire group of customers you're catering to? What have you found to be most challenging part?
Thanks, Fadi, for the question. That's a great one. I can give it a try. So to me, it really is a matter of perspective. So we are consultants and we work for a customer. The customer are a business that they produce goods or services to their own customer. And the game here is to really put our mindsets into the perspective of their customer, to really try and understand from the customer's perspective what creates value. And the way in Lean Six Sigma, especially, the way we define value, it's not us who define value, it's the customer. The customers are defining the value. So that's why we want to put ourselves in their shoes, because what we think is valuable in our business or in our customer's business may not be seen as valuable for their customers. There are some tools that can be used, like I'm thinking customer journey mapping or value stream mapping. There are certain tools that help highlight the customer perspective, but regardless of the tool, I think it really is the mindset. We don't define the value. We don't decide what's valuable. The customers do.
Thanks, Antoine. Mo and Glenn, did you have anything to add to that?
I would add a point, which is to flip the perspective of the question, like what's most challenging to ensuring you're adding value. Honestly, we can do it with our best effort and intention and best practice, but it can never be guaranteed. The only thing is we can know how to manage our expectation. When we know we did our best for discovery, client research, we know at least we shouldn't miss the whole point. if you think it's from 10 point to 1 point, you at least you are on that target. So don't be too hard on yourself, because that can make your process less sustainable if you really want to do everything right. It's more a mentality of doing things with your best intention and practice, and then the result we cannot control, honestly. It depends also on your client's feedback, their mentality. Sometimes they're happy, but they don't give very pleasant feedback. It can also happen. So just not be too hard on yourself, and know you know what you're doing. That's important.
Yeah, I also agree. Like, transparency with the client is very important, because they might come to you with a huge expectation, but they may not be able to support that kind of initiative. So being upfront, being honest, it's better to disappoint somebody earlier in the project. Like, it's a negative word, but just to say that whatever they're trying to achieve, whether it's not possible, it's better to say it upfront than wasting time and then telling them at like a later stage. And the answer to all of those things, the feasibility analysis happens during the discovery session. So being honest, like, I would resonate with everything that Antoine and Mo said. Be honest, be candid, like, and be upfront about everything. Right? That's how you achieve success.
Okay, great. I think there's one more question. Okay, from Matthew. How do you influence your clients to change direction if after your diagnostic, it clearly shows that they're going in the wrong direction to reach their objective? So I'm not sure if I should repeat that or not. Really saying, how do you influence your client to change direction after diagnosis if it clearly shows that they have been going in the wrong direction and after the analysis?
I can take that if you want.
Sure, Claire.
Yeah, so it's a great question, Matthew, and we have seen this a few times, like when they have done a discovery process, they are on a trajectory, they have started working on something, and they realize soon that they have hit a roadblock, right? So what we recommend is, if you have hit a roadblock, or if you're going in the wrong direction, you try to salvage like whatever is possible and take a phased approach. So let's say you're trying to build like a very large application, or like any project for that matter. If you have made wrong choices, see if the wrong choices can be actually, the good choices of there can be salvaged. And if they can be salvaged, think the path forward, take like 2 steps back if possible, and take the right step in the right direction, so that your loss is minimal. That's how that's my take on this question.
Antoine?
Yeah, I'd like to add to that, because there's a concept underneath this question that's the concept of sunk cost. And it happened in the past where, to Killian's point, the customer is going in a certain direction. We realize it's the wrong one, but they've invested a lot of resources, human, financial, into this direction. So changing course now would just generate a lot of waste and sunk cost. But the way I've addressed this in the past really is through a business case. And it's really about proving that the value of changing course, even though there might be some sunk costs, and yes, we can salvage some of what's been done, hopefully, but even if we can't, the value of changing course and getting more benefits with a smarter direction or a smarter result, we want to show that it outweighs the value of pursuing the same direction. And ultimately, it's just a matter of the value of one direction versus the other. And what's been invested in the past doesn't really impact the future value. So it's really through business case.
Yeah, and also, if I can add, it's also unique to each situation, right? Sometimes, you started the direction and you want to, we get clients where they're like, okay, well, we've done the discovery, we started the implementation. Are you going to come in and rip everything apart and start from scratch? Because that seems like, okay, well, we just lost 9 months. So there's a concept of salvaging and trying to see what you can salvage. And in some cases, the best option, it is to rip it apart. Like, I've been involved in ERP projects where they started a pilot with a product line, but it doesn't meet any of the other product lines. So, maybe the right decision is, I'm sorry to say, but, you don't want to lose that 1 year. But if you don't change direction now and, take that loss, you're going to lose 5 more years, right? And it does happen. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
if I
oh,
can add a point on this, because I feel like maybe Matthew, you are also a consultant. It's actually we cannot change their direction. We can only influence.
Mhm.
It comes with an educational piece. Like you set up the mindset, you give them, share them with the knowledge, make them understand what's wrong, and whether or change direction is really their choice. But you are there to not just provide value added result. It's also on their knowledge growth. So make sure you're adding value, and that's on your part. Whether or not they change is on their part. We cannot really guarantee that the result.
Mhm.
thank you. So we are at 12:57. So just to be conscious of time, I know it's lunch hour. Hopefully people had a chance to kind of take a bite while they were listening to us. So thank you, Antoine, Kalyan, and Mo for this great session. I mean, like I said, I personally learned a few tips myself and have taken some notes. I know it felt shorter than I thought it would be. Like, I think there's a lot more deeper we can get into this. We will, to the participants, thank you for spending your lunch hour with us if you're in the East Coast time frame. We will be sending a quick note with a survey if you can help us provide some feedback to let us know if you what you found useful, what we could do better. The feedback is always appreciated. And we will also be sending a quick summary of the session with a couple of slides if you're interested in connecting with any of our panelists afterwards and have any follow-up questions. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, all the participants, for being here.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Antoine.
Bye.
Thanks, Glenn. Thanks to all the participants.